Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Oh, I am here. And it's February 1st. Whoa. But this year's already going like vroom. Going
Happy
way.
April, happy February Fool's Day.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it'll be April before you know it.
Yeah, probably.
Let's go. Snap, and there it is. Oh, man. How are you doing, sir?
I'm kind of excited because as of yesterday, you're listening to this on Monday, so as of Sunday, we had our first monthly update for Dragoon. 5 full pages for you to just indulge in,
Ooh.
along with an update to the lore page section. So if you've been waiting patiently for Dragoon stuff, head on over to drogune.com and have yourself a good old time with a big old update.
Yes, do that. Do that now after the show. Listen to this first, then go do that. Well, I don't really have much to talk about before we get into it, so let's just go ahead and get into it.
All right, then. If you want your question answered on the show, email us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com, tweet to us at BumbleKast, comment on any of the YouTube videos. If you're a patron, post anywhere on the Patreon page, or preferably in the Q&A channel on the Discord. And if you want your question answered sooner rather than later, you can become a priority patron for $5 over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, or send us 2 coffees, that's $6 US, over at Ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. Please make sure that you check the master list first to see if your question's been answered recently. Check the FAQs over on BumbleKing.com. Or if you're going to be asking about what might have been in the post-reboot Archie verse, don't. We'll get to it eventually with Lost Hedgehog Tales. So, now the people have put their money where my mouth is, let's get to the priority Q&A.
Yummy, yummy. Papadripopolous starts us off with a question. Actually, it's more like a paragraph, but that's okay. You've said before the new 252 setting isn't the same as the Genesis world from the first time the Genesis wave was used. My question is, why? In hindsight, it would have been easy to connect the dots and go, Super Genesis wave brought us back to the Genesis world, and now it's permanent. But that's not what you guys went with. Do you recall why? If you feel your response to this is too short, feel free to use it as an excuse to talk more about overall Genesis and writing it. I honestly still really like that little arc whenever I reread it. Also not a question, just observation following on your latest ep. Hedgehog Engine is a lighting graphics engine, not gameplay. It's been superseded by Hedgehog Engine 2, which has done a really good job in Forces.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah.
I am an armchair game developer at best, so...
Yeah. I didn't realize that either, actually.
I know just enough to be pretentious in my critiques.
I guess it makes sense that's how Sonic Lost World uses the Hedgehog engine as well.
Okay.
So that makes some sense.
As for why not, when we went post-reboot, it was a scorched earth policy. There was absolutely nothing could be connected to the old continuity because certain parties would use any possible means of claiming rights to stuff by even the thinnest shred of connections. The Genesis arc happened right in the middle of the main arc at the time, and its creation and its end were still tied into that continuity. Therefore, it counts as pre-reboot continuity, and therefore individuals would use that as some kind of backdoor to claim rights or ownership or something. Now, you may be wondering how there's nothing related, and it's like, I know. And probably Genesis might have been safe since it was designed to be kind of its own thing, but that was the blanket policy at the time, which really was the best way to go, because the minute you start making nuances is the minute you start opening doors that you might blunder through, which might cause problems. So it was pretty much everything off the table just to be safe.
All right, next question is from Noni. If you could adopt any badnik from the entire Sonic series, which would it be? Quantity is unlimited, but it can only be one of each type.
I don't know, I kind of like Motobug. I know he's kind of the Goomba of the Sonic series, but he's just so round and cute, and he rolls around on that little wheel. You know, he could with the little claw arms. You can like feed your cat, clean the cat box, roll down to the grocery store and bring stuff back.
Yeah, Cluck might be fun. Maybe.
Are we talking Sat AM version or are we talking like game version?
I don't know. Maybe both. Let's see. What's the name of the springy bunny? Forget. Splats. That's right. Yeah. Okay. It might be a little too rambunctious, but might also be fun. It'd also be fun to have a springy bunny.
Especially useful if you're into notarization.
Yeah. What about the alligator badnik from Dust Hill? Just the head, though. Man. I don't want the rest of it. That's all I can really think of for now. I definitely don't want the scorpion spikeball dude from Sandopolis, though. No.
No, Scorp can burn in hell.
Yeah, it's dangerous. A little too dangerous for my liking.
I mean, egg robos might be more practical, given that they have opposable thumbs. But I imagine that big old egg chassis would make it hard to walk down anything that isn't just a giant hotel hallway.
Yeah, that's a big issue. Yeah, that's really it. Maybe the ballot stuffing robot from Sonic Boom. Does that count? Might be fun.
And I'm thinking purely utility because none of them are especially cuddly.
Yeah. That's kind of the problem. They're all robots, so it's kind of like can't really cuddle them. That's okay. That is okay. We need some badnik plushes. That's what we need. That would work. Buzz Bomber's too risky, man. That's dangerous. Orbot and Cubot, I didn't think of them as badniks, but I guess so. Sonic 3 rhinos. That would be pretty cool. You can ride it around. SWATbots are, I guess. I wouldn't want one as a pet, though. They're a little too human-ish. Anyway. Next up, we got a question from Joshless. Ian, while reading your run on Preboot Archie, I noticed that a lot, see all, of the numbers you give for populations of cities and countries are listed in terms of hundreds or thousands. An example that really popped out to me was a scene where Finitivus informed Knuckles that 90% of echidnas had been wiped out by Eggman. When Knuckles tries to calculate that in his head, Finitivus cuts him off by going ahead and telling him that's thousands of people. Is there any particular reason you seem to imagine Planet Mobius as having a population of a couple 100,000 people tops, or did it just work out this way?
It's more like the individual populations at the time. I was trying to make it logistically make sense. Like in the case of the echidnas, this was after the dingoes had ravaged Echidnopolis and after Eggman had paved over most of Albion. So I didn't imagine there were a lot of echidnas left, barely enough for a functioning society. And if you're going to do a story where one dude manages to trick an entire group through a warp ring, which was granted a last second stopgap editorial thing, saying that a literal city's population of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, it isn't practical. Kind of along the same lines, Knothole was supposed to be a village of refugees out of one city after it got completely taken over by Robotnik. To me, it didn't make a lot of sense that there should be too many people running around in there. Granted, when Knothole had grown into a larger capacity and was, filled to the brim, there was nowhere to live. The numbers get a bit bigger, but at the same time, if Eggman is going to manage to personally teleport everyone into egg grapes, can he reasonably do that if the numbers are too big? It's not a great answer, to be honest, but that's my thinking at the time.
Population density was never really, it didn't seem like it was extremely high in most areas. So I guess that makes some sense. Next up, we got a question from IanWaffles. During the Archie Preboot run, after Eggman brought himself back from insanity, there were times when he'd fail and slip back into madness for a few seconds, this being depicted by his glasses falling away to show his red, soulless eyes. I know specific plot details are reserved for the Lost Hedgehog tales, So what I'm asking is, was this detail something to pay attention to and that you intended to pay off? Or was it simply a characterization choice just so that Eggman was still not fully there?
It was so that there was some consequence to the breakdown. I didn't want him to be, functioning, completely non-functional, back to normal as if nothing had happened. So having the occasional slip was supposed to show that he's still crazy. He's still mad as a hatter, but he's back in control. That he's not fully healed, that he's still a bit cracked. Egg joke.
Mm-hmm.
But that he had, surpassed it and was recovering from it.
Alrighty. Next up, we got one from Diane W.
Before we get to Diane.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. When you get your priority Q&A in here, we kind of fudge a little bit. There's maybe 2 questions in there if they're thematic or, they follow up an idea. But Diane, you've given us like 7 potential questions here. And there was a fan idea into the mix. So when you put your priority Q&A, this is for everybody. I'm not just picking on Diane. When you put in your priority queue, or any queue, really, try to keep it to like 1 question. Or if you really need to cover all your bases, 2 with a potential follow-up. Otherwise, you're kind of abusing the system and we don't get to answer everyone's questions because we burn ourselves out on one marathon question. So we're going to split this one in half, Diane. We're going to cover some of the questions in it today, and the next episode we'll finish up the rest of your quote-unquote question.
Yeah. I try to usually separate out questions, but I've heard a lot of them here, and I think some of them are easier to answer, so I thought, sure. We'll just split it in half. All right, so here's Diane's question. There are a lot of missed opportunities from Shadow the Hedgehog, such as not having a Team Dark game, insert fan idea we're not mentioning here, or even meeting the man who killed Maria, but also a lot of unanswered questions. Why the Black Arms decided to wait until now to invade Earth when the Glyphic Canyon was transported there over 2,000 years ago.
That's not really particularly clear. The implications seem to be that Black Doom wanted the Chaos Emeralds so he could chaos control the whole Black Comet down to Earth's surface for easier conquest. So maybe the Glyphic Canyon thing was an early idea and they decided not to do that. It's not really made clear how long the Black Comet stays within orbit of, or within striking distance of the Earth before it goes to its next 50th loop. So for all we know, the Glyphic Canyon Armada was built, over 2,000 years because they came in for like a week and then had to wait 50 days to come back and finish it. I don't know. It's not very well explained.
Why the Black Arms want to eat humans for their fuel?
They're evil aliens. That's kind of a trope.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a logistical thing, They could use rabbits, but rabbits are too small. So they went with the next best thing that mates like crazy.
Well, to steal the rationale from Next Wave, humans retain the flavors of the things they eat.
Aha.
They have bones, and they are largely water, so we are a flavor-infused, crunchy, but still thirst-quenching snack.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes as much sense to me. And finally, why didn't Sonic and company just tell Shadow who he is, or why couldn't Shadow just ask anyone who knows him?
Because nobody knew.
Dun dun dun. Shadow didn't know?
No, nobody knew who he was.
Sonic didn't know.
No, the only person who knew was Eggman, who rescued him with a machine when he was falling from orbit, which you can only find out if that line of dialogue happens to fall during the final boss fight. So Eggman's not one to share information with anybody.
Yeah.
He's a jerk. Nobody else knew.
Huh. Okay. I mean, then Shadow wouldn't be able to go on the journey of figuring out who he is.
And then come to the resolution that he doesn't care and he's going to go his own way.
So he could say, "This is who I am" at the end of every ending. That's what he does.
I am what I am, and that's all that I am.
Oh, you've
This is
done
what
it.
you wanted, isn't it, Maria? To biff him and boff him, and always outrough him. I'm Shadow the Sailor Man. Where is that fourth Chaos Emerald? Damn.
Toot toot.
I'm just imagining him popping off the inhibitor rings and you hear the tune.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
That's homework for you guys. Pick out that scene when he's fighting Mephiles and do your magic.
Yeah, do it. Do it. Anyway, Starline's fanboy has a question. Hi, Ian. Back in issue number 13, Starline mentioned that he had become quite ill after not sleeping when he was looking for Eggman. Plus, in the design notes from Evan, Sega asked her to make him thin, pallid, and with an unhealthy complexion. Does it mean he's still ill? What kind of illness does he have, and will it be explored in the future? Or has he recovered from it already?
You're reading too much into a joke. It's that he worked too hard and he made himself ill from it. That's, too hard. If you don't take care of yourself, you get ill from it. That's the joke.
Oh, now you explain it. Now it's not.
And he worked himself beyond reasonable limits.
Now you explained it. Now it's not funny.
It wasn't that funny to begin with, but
oh, okay. I don't know.
Starline is fine.
Okay, he's fine
physically. I mean,
yeah, he's fine. Next up, we got a question from Idaria. Bonjour from France, Ian and Kyle. I'm a big fan of Ian's work on the Sonic series, and even though I've not been following this podcast for too long, it's really nice to listen to while I'm drawing or working. Now, I've heard that you are familiar with my favorite shows, Whack Fu.
Yeah.
The series is very popular in my country. I'm not too familiar with how it's viewed in your side of the world, and for many reasons, one of them being the tragic antagonist. So assuming you both watched all of it and now are waiting for season 4 to drop like I am, I've got to ask, who has been your favorite villain between Nox, Quilby, Kilby, and Orobo? I know most people prefer Nox, and I can't really blame them, but I personally love Kilby the most. The fact that he's made most of both the blessed with the suck and I'm a scream tropes, while being an absolute lunatic in combat, really made his backstory and his defeat the one that crushed me the most. But I'm curious to know your opinions.
Now, you've not watched it yet, have you, Kyle?
I watched like the first episode probably nearly a decade ago. Lee told me about it and I watched it and then just never got back on it. Not for any reason other than just, I don't know, laziness. So, yeah, I'm not able to answer this in the slightest. So it's all you, buddy.
Now, if you are curious and you haven't seen the show yet, it's on Netflix, at least in Canada. Stick to subtitles. The English dub is atrocious for the first 2 seasons. From what little I sampled of season 3 and beyond, it seemed okay, but at that point, I'm so used to the French voices, I can't go back. So, watch it. Season 1 is kind of monster of the week, goofy stuff. It takes a little bit of time for it to find its feet, but once the main plot gets rolling, then you're like, oh, this is what. Okay, I see. I gotta go with Nox. Nox is my favorite because to me, he is okay. Spoiler warning. Yes. He's the most tragic of the 3. Everything that he has done is with this really twisted good intention, and the utter defeat when he realizes it's been all for naught is just shattering. Kilby is good too, especially since he plays like 5D chess against every single faction. But I can't feel for him quite as much because his motivations are still somehow more selfish than Nox's. I think part of it is because Nox's ultimate goal is more personal. He does some atrocious things, but what he's doing is very personal and very finite, while Kilby is a monster, unrepentant of what he's done. Like, Nox's plan is the ends justify the means insofar as he will undo all the damage he's done, at least in his mind. Kilby doesn't care. Kilby will break as many eggs as he needs to make his omelet, and that's where I fall short feeling as much sympathy for him. His, heel turn transformation is spooky as all get out too, and that arm, man. You know what I'm talking about, Adira. Oropo, I feel like I should like a lot more because I love the whole duality angle. I love the what if the hero was the villain type of trope. That I eat that stuff up. But I feel like Oropo's origin and motivations are so convoluted and muddy. I'm still not quite sure what his whole deal was. I know about the eliotropes and the eliotropes and all that stuff, but I just feel like for all his buildup of what he was supposed to be, he lacked focus. And kind of the ending of that arc felt a bit rushed and muddled. So, neat design, like the concept on paper, but I don't feel like he had nearly as much oomph as Nox or Kilby or even Ogrist when you get down to it.
It's been requested of me that I pronounce Gragaloragran, and I'm sure I pronounced it wrong, but I hope that brought you joy.
Just leave it to Grugal. That's what everybody else does.
Grugal? Okay.
Grugal.
Grugal
is a boss.
What is Grugal? What is the full name? How do you pronounce that?
Oh, shoot.
Grugal Loragren?
It's been so long since I've actually heard them. Because it's funny, when he introduces himself with the full name, the cast can't pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
And, sorry, scream that again? Grugalagran. That's why everyone just calls him Grugal.
Okay.
But if nothing else, you gotta look up the Nox Grugal fight. Oh my god, dude. Time Wizard versus Dragon. It is good stuff. Good stuff.
That does sound pretty good. Next up, we got a question from Off. Have you ever written a comic that has no dialogue? If you have, how difficult was it to do? If you haven't, how difficult do you think it would be to do? I have all the respect in the world for visual artists who bring a writer's words to life, but I think a lot of people don't really understand how much goes into writing a script. The idea of writing a good story that doesn't rely on any dialogue to be told is absolutely fascinating to me. What are your thoughts?
I really want to at some point. I was really turned on to the idea years ago when Marvel Comics did a gimmick month called Nuff Said, where every issue was purely visual. Some worked better than others. I remember X-Men kind of bucked the trend by having like a final page where Jean Grey just straight up tells you what you were supposed to understand from the book. But if you were, had a plan in mind and you're told, hey, you lose one issue to, having to do this gimmick, you might have to deal with that wrench in the works. Anyway, really would like to do a silent story at some point, but that is incredibly challenging because you're relying entirely on the artwork. So number one, you have to have an artist that you're working with, unless you can do it yourself. If you can do that yourself, you're already ahead of me. But if you have to have an artist that is in sync with you so that they are rendering what you're writing in the way that you're seeing it. And you would think that's pretty simple, but it depends on how you write it in the script, how you convey your expectations and your vision in words, and how they interpret it through their own artistic lens. And that's never going to be like one-to-one every single time. Part of it, too, is a good comic is already going to be able to tell most of its story visually anyway. That's just the nature of the medium. But with a purely silent comic, you have to convey all your ideas through the actions, through the environment, through the color choice, through the camera perspective. And that can be really difficult to do. You're not going to be able to get a ton of nuance into there. You're not going to get a lot of very specific details, but you can still tell a story. And that is just a fun challenge that I wanted to do at some point. There was an opportunity that I had, and I pitched it, and I was told not to do that for specific reasons, and I can't talk about that just yet. Maybe one day, not too far from now, but it was kind of funny and also a little disappointing. But point is, you're definitely right off in that a lot of people think that the script writer for a comic is just like you write the dialogue and the artist makes up the rest. But at least with me, I view it as you're providing the blueprints for the rest of the art team to follow. So, any given page, this page, panel 1 is this size on the page. This is the setting. Here's the camera position. Here are the characters. These are what the characters are doing in relation to each other. These are their emotions. Here's what's being said. Panel 2, in this configuration on the page in relation to the previous panel. Here's the setting. Here's the camera angle, blah, 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 blah. So that every single panel is a shot. And you can't go into too much exhaustive detail because the artist needs to, get this drawn and not read a freaking book. But at the same time, you have to set things up so that they know what they're doing and they don't just have to wing it. They're very busy people. The less they have to think about the composition and everything, the more time they have to actually do. It's one of the frustrating things when, I see a review where somebody goes, oh, it's just a fight scene. They didn't put any effort into it. And it's like, do you know how long I staged this in my head and how meticulously I tried to craft the wording and then how the artist had to make sure that that worked within the page? Because sometimes I'll ask for something and you know what? It worked better in my head than it would on the page. And they have to adjust from there. When you put fight scene, you don't just write they fight. If you do, you are lazy. You do not deserve your paycheck. You have to put the effort in. And I put that effort in there, gut.
The biggest example I can always think of that always comes to mind whenever anyone talks about silent comics is the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes solo issue, Silent Interlude from the 80s. I think that's like just a really famous G.I. Joe issue in general, but it's totally silent. But it helps that it was written and penciled by Larry Hama, Same guy did both. So
yeah, see,
that helps.
He knows exactly.
That helps. Yeah, so... But that's a really good, if you're looking for a silent issue story, that one's done really well. Next up, we got a question from Scurvy Pirate Hog. Obvious question coming from me, but what are the chances that Captain Whisker can appear in the IDW comics? I miss that old pirate, and as we all know, everything becomes better when pirates are involved.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I don't have any immediate plans for him myself, but I would assume he's on the table.
Who knows? Only you know. Only you can find out.
Need a good excuse to go back to Blaze's world at some point anyway, so maybe? I don't know.
Always need an excuse to go back to Blaze's world. Actually, no, you don't need an excuse. Just do it. Anyway, Cat K9 is next with a question. Ian, if you were finally allowed to use Styx for IDW, how would you integrate her into the main cast? Would she be a main or major character, in light of her main status in Boom, or more along the lines of Team Chaotix? I only hope she wouldn't supplant Cream as Amy's BFF.
I am going to have to dodge this one because bringing Styx into the book is still on my agenda. So I don't want to spoil what might be,
Sure.
This, of course, is reliant on Sega saying yes or no. I mean, they already vetoed the one idea, but I don't want to... I can't answer that just yet. I will say that if she is added, she's not going to be, or I wouldn't want her to be, a replacement for anybody. Even if she is close friends with Amy, her dynamic with Amy is very, very, very different than Cream's.
Yes. I was going to say.
That's like saying I want to replace my chocolate sauce and my ice cream with 3 alarm jalapeno sauce. It's they're very different.
I'm just wondering how much of the fourth wall breaking of her personality would remain intact in the more serious universe of the comics. I don't know. I'm curious. I know you probably won't say it. You can't say anything, but I'm curious how that would work out.
I would say that mainline Styx, I don't think would be quite as zany as Boomsticks, but
Boomsticks.
but she is definitely a comedic character, so it's not like she would be all grim or serious.
Well, no. Yeah. Next up, question from Andrew D. What are some series, game, movie, TV, book, etc. that you would love to get into or check out but don't have the time?
I feel like I should do know at some point.
Is there a can you list the ones that I don't want to get into or check out? That might be quicker and easier. Actually, I don't know. Actually, I can't even think of. I don't have like a running list. There's so much.
That's kind of the thing. It's like my to-do list has gotten so big. It's kind of like I've lost track of it. It's like, oh yeah, that thing.
There's so much.
Oh well.
Yeah, there's so much media in general these days. Like, and then the things that I haven't seen end, and they ended disappointingly, and nobody likes the ending. Like Game of Thrones. So it's like, well, now do I even want to bother investing the time into watching it if it just ends like crap? If the ending is crappy? Or what? Or,
yeah.
It's like,
I only bring up Dune because it's kind of one of those tentpole sci-fi series and the movies on the way. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot. There's a lot. Like going back to Whack Fu, outside of the animated stuff, there's tons of reading material and games to be had within the multiple universes within the franchise, which I have barely touched. So add that to the pile.
Yeah. The one thing I can think of as a TV series offhand is Breaking Bad. Never seen it at all, which is a bit of a shame for me because I do love Bryan Cranston. So I don't know, just never got around to it. So that's one thing I can think of off the top of my head. Jeez. Outside of that, I don't know. Whack Fu? Like I said, I've only watched like the first episode, so it's like I think it was a 2-parter for the first episode, so I watched the whole 2-parter or whatever. But yeah, other than that, I can't really think of anything because there's so much though. It's too much. It's too much. I'm kind of hoping that this whole COVID thing has slowed some things down. Maybe I can get eventually caught up. Next up, here's our question from Blue Mickey Mouse. Ian Flynn, you've told people that they ought not to read your Sonic fanfiction from before you became an official writer because it was of bad quality. When you look back upon Other M, does your mind evolve into hearing Samus say, "the baby," as that famous gif of Sonic Underground plays in your mind?
Thank you for answering your own question, Blue.
If you're wondering, it's baby falling.
Oh yeah, I know the one.
No. I'm just talking. I'm speaking for the audience who can't. This is not a visual show.
They ought to know what it is.
Yes, the baby from Sonic Underground falling and then exploding. Wow, I haven't seen this in forever. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
I did an interview for a Sonic retrospective series recently, and the interviewer actually had been a big fan of, is still a big fan of Other M, to the point where they had at one point printed out the pages to make their own books. And it's like, I can't totally hate that series because some people genuinely really, really enjoyed it. And I'm very glad they did. And we've covered this a few times on the show. It did some impressive things for what it was at the time, but golly, it's bad. Oh, it's such try-hard teenage angst. Don't. Not to say that there's anything wrong with fanfic in and of itself. It's just, it's experimental crap, and it's embarrassing. It's like pulling out your old home movies and showing it to strangers. I don't want it. Leave it alone.
Oh well. I remember reading it and liking it at the time. It was something different, but, we've moved on. So let's move on to the next question from Johnny Be Good. This came to mind while reading the Bad Guys book. How are power cores made? Are they easy for Eggman to make and power robots with, or difficult? Also, the giant gumball machines were a nice touch reminding me of the bonus stages in Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
I imagine the power cores are fairly easy to produce, given that he just plugs them into his default robots. If they were harder to make, I would think they would only show up out of, boss robots or something. But they seem to be a stand-in for animals.
Interesting. And finally, for the priority Q&A, our last priority question this week comes to us courtesy of Melvin. I am sad because the Mega Man comics are still on quote-unquote hiatus. Please geek out about anything cool about Mega Man for a few minutes.
I guess, aside from the fact that I really wanted to do Mega Man 4, that's what I've been building towards narratively, and we've covered that a bit. The other one was Mega Man X4. I don't know why it's always the 4s, but just diving into this schism between the Hunters and Repliforce, and getting into how Sigma would turn the two against each other, and the frustration of it just kind of coming down to egos would have been so much fun to play with. And I probably would have garnered a bit of fan ire, because everyone, adores Iris. Oh, cute Iris. Oh, poor Iris, she died. La, la, la. But they kind of forget the fact is that she was racist. She hated humans. She feared and hated humans. So I would have liked to at least have investigated that a little bit. How does Zero feel about that? How does that affect her job or how she interacts with things? Why did she come to those feelings? And just X4 has so much meat to it. There's so many ways you could play with it. That's not an arc, man. That's like at least a year-long run, if not more.
Yeah.
Get into Repliforce, get into the hierarchy, get into how society is reacting to a new policing agent that has established itself by the very fact that you have Reploids deciding that they're going to police themselves outside of the normal jurisdiction. Is that itself maverick behavior? Just, oh my god, dude. So much fun could have been had there. So much fun. So much fun. And we didn't even get to X1.
So much left on the table. It's really just disappointing. It's disappointing.
And I guess one of the things that I'm happy that we managed to sneak in there, I don't know about sneak, that we managed to get in, was the final issue where you see the kind of timeline of going up through Legends. Because that was more or less, here, everybody, look at my notes for what I'd like to do with this series over the next 50 years. And the Elf Wars, the fact that we had Dr. Light represented as an elf, is that one little bit of my thinking. It's like, this would make sense to me. And who knows if it would ever be accepted into broader canon. But by dingy, it was there for a page. And that makes me happy.
Yeah. Oh, there's just so much. There's so much to talk about for Mega Man, just in general. Like, we've waxed poetic about Mega Man many times on this show. The fact that you were able to do a crossover with Sonic, which was absolutely perfect. Like, if I could think of two characters that should cross over, Mega Man and Sonic were like, it was perfect. It was absolutely just delightful. And it's like, yes, Sonic and Mega Man together makes perfect sense. I mean, they're both blue, for crying out loud. That's a big one. But even still, it's like, yeah, it just was bam, right on the money. I'm really glad that happened. And just overall, just Mega Man, I don't know what it is. The music, of course, is a big draw. And one of the things I think that really has cemented the series in history is definitely the music. Musically, it is just it's a powerhouse. Every game, every game's got something worth listening to in it, just about. So it's so consistent about that. It's like, and it's another thing Sonic and Mega Man have in common: very consistently good soundtracks. Yeah, I don't know. The games don't explore as much of the story in the world of Mega Man as I would like. The exception being Command Mission, which is great. kind of love that world building aspect to that game, even if it is technically not canon, depending on what falls in under canon and what doesn't. That's another thing Sonic and Mega Man have in common: janky canon, janky AF canon. I mean, the difference is that Sonic doesn't care and Mega Man tries to care and just makes it worse. But still, janky canon. That's both of them. So, but yeah, there's just so much unmined potential for Mega Man in general. And that's why I was really enjoying the comics, was because you were able to mine some of that potential and able to go into more detail and depth about things that happen in the games, and even maybe create some new stories outside of the games that were something different and something new and cool. And then it just kind of unceremoniously ended. And I'm sad.
At least we got our epilogue. We were able to put something of a bow on it.
At least you knew the end was coming, yes, but still, the fact the end had to come, the worst part. All right, tell us a little bit about the Bumble Comic Shop.
Bumble Comic Shop is where you can buy comics that are written by me and get them signed. Everything is convention priced because conventions are not a thing right now. So head over to BumbleKing.com and look under the Shops tab for the Bumble Comic Shop. I actually really need to update that, but I have been really busy. You'll find Sonic stuff, you'll find Star Wars, My Little Pony Meets Transformers, a few free options, a whole bunch of stuff. So head on over and check it out.
Yes, BumbleKing.com. Over there on the Shops tab. Go! You can listen to this in the background while you do that, right? You can do it. I believe in you. Standard Q&A time! First one comes from Tikos. Can the Sonic cast breathe in space? Is there an official answer?
Official answer, not that I'm aware of. All evidence granted by the games, apparently.
I don't know.
Unless you want to say, most of the space stages are on some kind of station that has an artificial atmosphere. But I mean, when they're flying over the moon,
What's funny is that they can breathe in space, but they can't breathe underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our next question comes from Geo. If Sonic Boom and Miraculous Ladybug had a crossover, how would the characters interact, and is Shadow too powerful to be akumatized? I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Is he becoming Akuma from Street Fighter?
No.
I figured it was a Ladybug thing.
Jeez. See, I don't want to be all cynical, but I don't know if Sega would allow Shadow to be akumatized.
What does that mean?
The main villain, Hawkmoth, is able to corrupt these little moths and sends them out to people who are suffering from a severe negative response and akumatizes them, which turns them into a supervillain.
Oh, okay.
And then the gimmick for pretty much every episode is the main characters, Ladybug and Chat Noir, have to find out whatever item the Akuma has possessed, break it, and then purify it so that they can return the victim back to normal.
Okay. Here's another show that I have been told to get into but have not watched.
It's fun. It's cute. It's a nice superhero romp.
I like those, So it should be right up my alley.
It's very formulaic, but in a satisfying sense.
Well, I'm used to that too. It's a superhero story. My expectations are not super high.
It's a neat show. It's fun. I would imagine that, Ladybug herself would just be driven to the brink because everyone would probably be about on the same pun level as Chat Noir the entire time. And given how volatile some of their emotions are, I can almost see them each getting akumatized at the drop of a hat, more for comedic sake than anything else. Or, I can just imagine Knuckles is, doing his thing and he drops his drink and he gets furious. So here comes the little Akuma. But then, there's a pretty cloud in the sky and he's all better. So it flutters off in another direction. But no, it's, moved away and the sun's on my eyes. Here comes the Akuma again. No, but it is such a pretty day. I guess that's all right. It flies away again. It just Hawkmoth is fuming in his dome. Why won't it just take?
Oh, man. It wouldn't even know what to do with sticks.
Styx is trying to tell everyone, no, it's little purple butterflies, okay? It's what's driving everyone crazy. Yes, Styx, we understand. Butterflies, sure. No, it's real!
Yeah. All right, let's jump on over to a question from Tick Tick. There's a game developed by Falcom called Popful Mail that was at one point considered to be localized as a game called Sister Sonic, way back in the day. How about putting on your theory crafting hats and let us know how the franchise would be different had Sonic received a sister who's a medieval fantasy bounty hunter hanging out with dwarves and elves and stuff?
I actually watched through a long play of Popful Mail trying to see just how it might have been done.
What the connection was, yeah.
Yeah, and like, I'm probably applying the too much backwards logic to it. There's just a couple characters like, oh, they could retool that as Sonic and Tails, or, oh, I see where they could, do this and keep it kind of Sonic-y while doing its own thing. And at the time, they probably would not have been that faithful to the series. But I don't know. It would have been a weird offshoot that fell to the wayside, like Sega Sonic Arcade or Knuckles Chaotix.
Yeah.
That would have unloved and unnoticed until around nowadays, and then there would be like this second renaissance of reviving classic characters. It's like, oh, here comes Sister Sonic, whatever they would have named her. Please let it have had a name.
They've just kept on calling her Mail.
Maybe that would have been interesting, but I don't know. On the one hand, I really wish they had gone that route, because it would have been neat to see what kind of material could have been mined from it since. I mean, the mileage I got out of Bean and Bark just out of Fighters, and then here we would have had something of a light RPG. What could have been. But at the same time, fans of the series, I don't want them gypped out of their game, so.
Yeah. Popful Mail is it's a really cool game, though. It's a really neat game. I'm glad it came over pretty much unscathed for the most part, I believe. But it feels like they just wanted to slap Sonic on there as a marketing tactic to get people to buy the Saturn or the Sega CD.
Pretty much.
Sega CD, yeah. But yeah, it's a good game. It stands on its own. I mean, it's by Falcom. The soundtrack alone is amazing because, Falcom. So if you've not played Popful Mail, you probably should. Don't look for Sonic connections. There aren't any, but... Next question is from Abdi M. Without divulging future or potential plans, what interesting or haven't been done before character pairings would you like to see together in their own arc or spin-off? Personally, I'm a really big fan of the Silver and Knuckles pairing, like in the Sonic Forces prequel comic.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. I don't have, off the top of my head, any, specific arcs or whatever, but pretty much take any character that doesn't normally interact with the other and see where it goes from there. There's such a large cast of very distinct personalities. Put them in the jar, shake it up, see what happens. I feel it's a bit of a cop-out, but it's also, there's so many possibilities. It's kind of hard to narrow it just down to one.
Yeah. One example I always think of is like Amy and Knuckles. They work well together.
They do.
Yeah. It's kind of an oddball pairing if you're just looking at it from the outside. Rogues. What's that?
Put cream amongst the Babylon rogues.
Oh.
See if she can get them to behave themselves.
No. Never. That would be fun.
I mean, one of the fun things Rivals 2 did was pair up Espio and Silver.
Yeah.
The grim and focused ninja and the, naive good boy.
Yeah. Styx and Blaze. Would just be Blaze would be a freaking nightmare for Blaze, I think.
Almost feels like a retread of Marine, but
in a way, there's be some differences, sure, yeah. I mean, I'd also say the same for like Blaze and Tangle or something, but no. I'm getting suggestion Cream and Sonic could be neat. I don't think I've ever seen that interaction really, so that could be neat.
I mean, we touched on it briefly in the books, but there were kind of zombies going on, so I wouldn't call that the purest of instances.
Yeah. Sonic would teach Cream all of the things she shouldn't do, and then Vanilla would be very mad at Sonic. But it's to be expected. Next up, Godzilla has a question. Hey, Ian. Question regarding Omega. Where does Omega live? Does he just crash with Rouge whenever he needs repairs or ammo? I don't imagine Shadow is much help, because I figure like Sonic, he's pretty much homeless.
I think Omega's meant to be kind of the same thing. He just kind of wanders and shoots badniks.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Which...
He's a robot. What does he care?
Yeah, I mean, with Shadow, that kind of, gets tiresome. But with Omega, that's kind of his gag. That's kind of his thing. So I'm a little more willing to let that one be.
Yeah. Here's a question from Mystery Flavor. Will the Tails doll ever make an appearance in IDW? Will he be a robot or a possessed doll?
Hashtag knowing smile.
Oh, boy. Let's get into this question from Mike B. This is kind of a specific question, but if someone were to accidentally send in a fan idea or theory in the middle of a BumbleKast question and you read it, would you not be able to use it regardless of how broad it could be? Well, this kind of ties back to an earlier one.
Yep, and that's why Kyle fields the questions first, so he can weed it out for me.
Yeah, but I'm really bad at it, obviously, if one got through.
It was caught. But yeah, don't submit fan ideas whatsoever. Whether or not it's Trojan horsed inside a question, or there was somebody on Twitter the other day who just like fired off a bunch of them, and it's like, I have been saying this since 2006. Don't give me fan ideas, for pity's sake.
The thing is that you do get some ideas, and then we build off of them on the show into other things, and then it's weird. It's weird, but yes, don't send in fan ideas. Don't do that. GH has this question. If you really think about it, Shadow is an alien on multiple levels. He comes from the human world and was birthed there, and is technically a descendant of the Black Arms. Do you think the people of Sonic's world openly accepted Shadow when he first arrived there, or do you think they were afraid of him?
Given that everyone just thought he was a plain old hedgehog, I don't think it's an issue.
They thought he was Sonic.
And also given that Sonic's world seems to be really, really chill about everything, I don't see them being very judgmental or standoffish, as a rule.
They wouldn't necessarily know just based on looking at him necessarily.
That and it would require Shadow to interact with people, and we already know he doesn't do that, so...
Especially these days. I don't blame him really, though. I mean, I wish I could do that. Red Scarf UK is here with a question. What would you consider the state of technological development on Blaze's world to be? Rush Adventure establishes that her world makes use of various colored materials to build structures and machines, but that's technically true of Sonic's world and the real world too, so it doesn't really explain anything. I think it's safe to assume steam technology exists because of the machine labyrinth, and of course there's robots like Captain Whisker, Johnny, and the Robot Pirates, but do you think they're representative of the standard technology across the whole world, or are the robots an exception and the technology of the world is still one or more generations behind them? And most importantly of all, do you think they have TV and video games?
Okay, so I actually have official answers on this one.
Yeah, you mentioned that her Blaze's world is less technologically advanced than Sonic's, but you didn't go into any detail.
Well, that's about it. But yeah, when we went in and we asked for designs on the Imperial Castle, that was part of the notes that came back, is that Blaze's world is like you said, a generation or two behind Sonic's world in terms of technology, which is just that nice little nugget of information that I love so much.
Mm-hmm. Do they have TV and video games?
No, they do not.
Oh, dang. What's Marine do all day then?
Try to build boats out of materials.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Apparently the robots were made by Eggman, so maybe they don't count. I don't know. And finally, our last question this week comes from Maybe Toby. What is it with Sonic fans shipping everything? They're not helping the negative rumors, lol. Just let Tangle and Whisper be friends. No, I refuse. I refuse. I mean, yeah, it's fine. They can be friends.
I mean, on its own, shipping is fun. It's just another form of theory crafting, and you like two characters together, you like their dynamic, you want to see them, maintain that dynamic. Nothing wrong with that. It's when the folks get so tunnel vision on a particular topic that is the only thing that they're interested in.
When they start getting defensive, or offensive,
that's no good.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
I'm not gonna shame anyone for their particular fandom or pairing or whatever, but at the same time, you can't just impose what you want onto the main product because that's just what you want. That's not how it works. Sorry.
Unless it's me, then I have imposed it all on everything. Anyway.
Sure you have, buddy. Sure you have.
Anyway, Tangle and Whisper are totally gay for each other. Sally and Nicole are too, actually. Just putting that out there.
Regardless, personally, I think if you're going to have any characters hook up, they need to be friends first.
Yes.
You can have the whole love at first sight thing. That's kind of the fun romantic thing. But there needs to be more to the relationship than just googly eyes.
That's boring.
So if, Tangle and Whisper develop beyond here, okay. If not, and they're just good friends, also okay. They've built themselves to that point.
Sure.
And that's what's important.
Yep. I don't think people are just really excited about having two characters. Two new characters. And they're excited about having more female characters in Sonic, so, makes sense, but still, every ship is canon. Every ship is also installed with a cannon, and they're firing at each other.
It's an entire flotilla.
The shipping wars will be fought not with guns and bombs, but with witty emoji combos. And also memes and animated GIFs. Anyway, that's it. That's it.
Before we wrap up the show, we're going to give a big thank you to everyone who makes this show possible. Big shout out to the patrons and Ko-fi donators, including Daniel H., Alex P., James K., John B., Jennifer R., Samuel P., Sam Cybercat, Robotnik Holmes, Mike B., Justin G., Torchbound, Koopling Crew 128, Duizdiz Din, Diane W., Scruffy Matt, Chris A., Andrew D., John M., Dawn B., Yami M., Lee H.K., Lisa M., Chevelle, Sillystring, Takaro, Sonny, Salute Your Cat, David M., Justin S., Blue Title Gamer, Invade Turbo Tunas, Overthinking Films, Tick Tick, Final Neil, Papadripopolous, Off, Noni, Ian, Degama F. Wow, Jonathan D., PC the Unicorn, Rachel W., Godzilla Chaos Universe, Sonic Legacy, Preston M., Picky Bake, Daniel B., J. Frost, Blue Mickey Mouse, Bradley T.T., Jonathan L., Skullcake. That's hardcore. Owen B.D., Dadler the Dalek, Summit Gooey, Jib, Sapphire Scarletta, Turbo, Dove, Professor Rye, Idira, Scurry, Pirate Hog, Chaotic Canine, and Melvin. Sorry, Skullcake caught me off guard.
Skullcake.
Skullcake.
Delicious. Everything is cake after all, so why not your skull too?
Tastes like metal. No.
Also, there was someone named Ian in there. Ian, are you patronizing us?
No, maybe. No.
It might be Skull Cross Cake or Skull X Cake, though. I don't know. Skull Cake, though, is better. I like Skull Cake.
This is what Patreon gave me, so.
Yay. Patreon, you win. And you win if you support us on Patreon, so thank you. Thank you. It is Skull Cake. Okay. I'm getting confirmation. I've been confirmed. It has been confirmed. Anyway, go ahead, Ian. Tell the fine people where to find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC, my personal website, BumbleKing.com, and my original webcomic, Drogoon. That's DROGUNE.com. Kyle, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at KyleJCRB. You can also check out my other show, Nitro Game Injection, which streams live on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time over at kngi.org. Over there, you can also find all the archived episodes of the BumbleKast, going all the way back to the very beginning in MP3 downloadable format for your listening pleasure on every device imaginable that plays MP3s. Can you imagine a device that does not play MP3s? These days, it's kind of hard, too, actually.
Yeah, but I'm old enough to remember.
Yes, I
I
do.
remember.
I remember when you had to burn MP3s to a CD. Yes, Metal Ian is equipped for MP3 playback.
He just does it out of spite.
Yes.
Anyway, follow the show on Twitter at BumbleKast. Contact us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, our YouTube channel, and KNGI.org.
Don't forget to also check out the Bumble Store, shop.spreadshirt.com/Bumble Store. Get your Knowing Smile gear over there, your hashtag Knowing Smile gear, I should say. Slap that thing on a mug. Do it. Do it now.
Or slap it on your mug. They got masks.
Oh, nice. Knowing Smile across the front there. Perfect.
Catch us for BumbleKast Gaming live streaming on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/BumbleKast Gaming, Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We sometimes do it throughout the week, so follow us on Twitter or follow us on Twitch to see when those times will be.
Yes, we've been falling behind. We're gonna catch up on ourselves, Ian, with the release schedule. If we're not careful, we
more impetus to play more.
Yeah, we have a good backlog still, but it's slowly dwindling. We need to get on that. So anyway, yes, check that out. Twitch.tv/BumbleKast Gaming, and also you can find the archived versions on our YouTube channel. So check those out.
That's going to wrap us up for this episode of the BumbleKast. We'll see you next week for more of your questions and more of our answers.
Not usually my answers, but that's okay. You don't want my answers anyway. They'll all be wrong. Intentionally.
No. Okay.
Intentionally wrong.
It's all wizardry nonsense, so it might rise back again. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe Mr. Deep-Voiced Ian Flynn, who suddenly got very deep-voiced after one single pop.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're doing BumbleKast at night, after hours again.
BumbleKast After Dark.
Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining is my sensual partner, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Hi, Ian. What's up? Also, what do you got going on over there, Ian?
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Sounds like a drill. It's like a dental drill. A mouse with a drill. A needle mouse. Yeah, he did it. He got a needle mouse.
Okay, all good.
Okay, what was somebody running a dentist drill in the background?
Don't worry about it.
Someone got an underground dentist going on in your building?
You can find me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC. Let me say that correctly. BKC?
BKC? Oh, your southern is coming out there.
I reckon so. My personal website.
Website? It's the web seat. You sit on the web.
And catch us for Gumby. Good God.
Catch us for GumbleKast Gaming. GumbleKast Gaming.
This has been a long episode.
Yeah. It's funny, it hasn't really, but
it feels like it. All right. Follow me on.
I swear I've not replaced Ian with Metal Ian, and he's not having a breakdown. He's not breaking down. Ignore the man behind the curtain.
BumbleKast, welcome to host Flynn Ian, am I?
Anyway, go ahead. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org. Dear Ian, it was sort of weird that Cream shot Sally that one time.
Yeah, but she had a good reason.